this list is that I always think it's worthwhile to just start with warming up the relationship. And I know that when you are tearing your hair out and so frustrated with the kind of communication that you're having, that warming up the relationship feels like almost impossible and like the last thing you want to do, but it provides that foundation for being able to get things to a different place. So, whether it's going to Starbucks and getting your kid their favorite drink, or finding a time to go for a walk together, like whatever you can do to just start to warm things up, is often really, really helpful. And I get that it can be very challenging to do.
One of the things I recommend when parents are having just a really difficult time and they've tried a lot of stuff to engage their kids again is to take a Post-it note, a stack of Post-it notes, and every day just write a little love note to your kid and stick it somewhere where they're going to see it, with no need for them to acknowledge it and no need to ask them, did you find it? Just little things saying, I love you, your smile is so amazing, you're such a great violin player, whatever, just something that connecting with them, letting them know I'm thinking about you and I care about you.
Yeah. And sometimes people like aren't, that feels like a leap also. And so like, if that feels challenging, that's probably a hint that it's probably a really helpful thing to do. And if you're not quite ready to hand those Post-it notes or leave those Post-it notes somewhere that your child will find it, just spend a few days jotting down something you saw in them that you appreciate, right? Like, I heard them laughing on a Zoom call with friends today, and I loved hearing the sound of their laughter. Or, they put a dish in the sink after they ate, and that was really exciting, like whatever it might be. But sometimes just looking for those positives helps remind you that there are actually positives when it may not really feel like there are many.
Right. And I know some people will actually pull out the baby albums when they like loved you and just wanted to be with you, wanted your attention, pull out the 2-year-old picture and just remind yourself, this is the same child.
Yes. Yes. And they will not be in whatever phase they're in forever, right? Like things, they're not like those 2-year-old pictures anymore, and they're not going to be like this forever either. Mm-hmm. But I get that we're spending a lot of time together. Would it be helpful to talk about any of the specifics around some of the things on this slide, Sherry?
I think we should. Let's go through them.
Great. So very often, I think as parents, we, really feel like we want to share the benefit of our experience with our kids, and we want to tell them what we know, which totally makes sense. And it means that we get into teaching or explaining or lecturing pretty quickly. And so I think one of the practices that parents can aim for is to just start to try to listen for understanding, right? So getting a sense of your child's experience and stepping back from the notion of like, do I agree or disagree with them? Do I think what they're saying is right or wrong? And so things like asking for more information or checking that you've heard what they're saying. So you can say like, can you give me an example of times when that has happened? Or, help me understand, are you saying that X, Y, Z? So just trying to be like really neutral and hearing what it is they're saying, and not necessarily letting your brain engage with the notion of, do I agree with them or not?
Yeah, and if we're not looking for like they're saying something wrong or I disagree, then you can really listen instead of be listening to what am I going to say or what are they doing wrong? How can I, convey my values? How can I correct them? Then you can really just listen.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this next one really kind of dovetails with that well, just expressing genuine curiosity. So finding out more about the situation, whether it's something they've experienced or something that's going on, and just like, asking, again, kind of neutral questions like, oh, what was happening before your friend said that? Or what was that like for you? Or what did the teacher say next? Right. So just kind of gathering some facts, some information. I mean, you can, if your genuine curiosity also takes you to like, what did it feel like to hear your friend say that? Or what was it like while you were waiting for that text? You can definitely get into that, but just getting really curious. it's super helpful to take a step back from any heightened emotions at this time, right? So it's not like, oh my God, how did you handle that? Right? Like that's not helpful, genuine curiosity. It's like, just kind of a more neutral and calmer, genuine curiosity.
And along those lines, if it's girl drama, which I talk a lot about it in Teen Wise, is like don't join in the fray. So don't start bad mouthing other kids and saying how life isn't fair. It just really doesn't empower them. And it can also kind of shut them down too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm guessing not all of us have been through law school. I certainly haven't, but Socratic questioning is something that lawyers seem to know well. And this is really about asking questions that help the other person think through the situation. So things like, if your kid tells you about an email they want to send to their teacher and it sounds vaguely inappropriate to you, you could just say like, what would the benefits be of sending your teacher that email, and have them think through like what good could come from that, and like what might be the drawbacks of doing that, and see if they have any ideas. And at times you could say, I have some other thoughts if you're interested in hearing them, but it sounds like you've got a good list, and just let them think it through. I find that moving into Socratic questioning is super helpful at moments where you feel like diving into a lecture, right? So instead of telling them everything that you want them to know, start asking questions that might help them come to more thoughtful conclusions.
Right. And this is a time where it's really important to be in tune with your kids, because they may not be ready for that Socratic question in that moment, but you can always come back to it. And what you said is opening the door for that. If you need me to go through this, I'm here for you. But you're not just automatically assuming they're in the right headspace for it.
Yeah, definitely. You need to be in a rational place for that one.
Right.
Yeah. Challenging unhelpful thoughts is something we've talked about a lot during these parent chats, but we all just have habits of mind where we tend to look at the worst of things. And so, just saying like, oh, your friend didn't text you back, like, and you're feeling like they're probably really mad at you. Are there any other possible explanations? Have there been times that you didn't get back to a friend as quickly as they might have wanted you to? What was going on then, right? So just, again, kind of helping them explore some of those things. The next couple of ones are kind of speak to the point, Sherry, of what you were saying a few moments ago, that like if our kids are not quite in their rational mind and are kind of more intensely in the feelings, and just tuning into those feelings, right? Like feelings, as uncomfortable and challenging to deal with both for our children and for ourselves as their parents can be, feelings are never right or wrong, right? They just are what they are. We absolutely can place limits on actions, but feelings come unbidden and we need to make space for them. So, just reflecting them. It sounds like you were really mad when your teacher said that, or it sounds like that felt really unfair. And so just really reflecting what you're hearing from them. And then that next one, just empathy, right? You don't have to agree with your child in order to empathize with them, right? It sounds like you felt so embarrassed not to have your work ready for class today. I hate when I don't get things done on time. It feels awful, right? Instead of saying like, see what happens when you don't have your homework done, right? Because then it just becomes like, wow, mom's really nasty when I don't do my work.
Yeah.
Right. But just like, that just feels awful. I know I hate when I do that. And it's not like, oh, I'm so much better than you are. I've lived so much longer. I never procrastinate on anything, right? Like, no, I procrastinate too. And it feels yucky when you don't, have what you need. So I think that can go a long way.
This next one, I'm very interested to see what you have to say.
In terms of setting limits?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So just like I was saying a minute ago, feelings, obviously, we can't put limits on, but behaviors we can. But we can't necessarily control what other people do. And so focusing on what you will or won't do is really helpful. I saw a great quotation from one of the authors of the book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and How to Listen So Kids Will Talk, where she said something to her daughter like, when you speak to me like that, it makes me so angry that I find it impossible to be helpful. I will be able to hear you when you rephrase that.
I like
Right.
that.
And so it's not saying, you better say that differently, or don't talk disrespectfully to me, but just like, I can't actually hear you when you're speaking that way. If you want me to be able to hear what you're saying, I'm going to need you to rephrase that. And I
Mm-hmm.
just think like being clear about what you will and won't do is it gets us pretty far, because we cannot make other people do what we want them to,
Right.
hard as we try.
And I think also under, like you said, your limits is if you've had enough of the conversation, that you do have the right to say, I can't have this conversation anymore. I'm going to go in the other room, or I'm going to take a walk or something. Because there are times when it gets heated when, some of you have kids who are the ones who keep coming back for more. Like they won't let it go, even though you've said this is the end of the conversation. So you just have to set that limit and take care of yourself so you can stay calm.
Absolutely. And I think inviting kids to know that that's an option they have too, right?
Right.
We want them to use that not only with us, but potentially with their siblings or with friends, or maybe someday in their lives with partners, to just say, like, you know what, I can't handle this conversation right now. I need to take a break.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which is very different than just walking out, right? To say it verbally, I'm taking a break because of this. It has a very different feel. If you've ever had someone walk out on you when you're having a conversation, it's very hurtful. So by
Yes,
verbalizing why you're leaving, it makes a little more sense.
for sure.